Hello and welcome to another zany episode of Nerdy West Coast Swing, the podcast with pixels where the anchors are out of this world and the points don't matter. We're here to help train your eye so you can learn faster and dance better. I'm Cassie Winter.
I'm Alicia Marshall. So today we're doing something a little bit different. We have a less experienced dancer with us than we usually do when we have guests on. Usually we like to talk with champions, but we wanted to kind of start to give some feedback and help people see things that could be done better or that, they should be looking for. Sometimes it's hard to know what we're talking about if you can't really see it, because, a lot of the champions have great technique and all of that stuff. So today we have Anne with us. And Anne, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. My name's Anne. I live in Corvallis, Oregon, where I host and run a weekly social dance on Tuesdays at Oddfellows. I use they, them pronouns. I started dancing in college, and so I've been doing West Coast swing for, gosh, I think almost 9 years now, if not over 9 years, but only started kind of more seriously looking into competition and really training my dance within the last maybe like 2 to 3 years. I'm sort of recently into the intermediate division, and I'm kind of looking to understand more about the next steps of the competitive eye.
And I just want to mention, like, the dance you help run and lead in Corvallis is like awesome. I love it so much. The vibes are immaculate. And also just like so proud of where your like competitive following has come and dances both roles. But was right now competing as a follower mainly, right? In intermediate.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I didn't have time to look at your videos that you sent over for the recording today until today. And I looked at them.
Mhm.
Oh my God, I'm so proud.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're looking great, and I'm just so excited for you. For the viewers at home watching this recording on YouTube, I'm gonna link to Anne's comp videos so you can go and watch them and then come back for the analysis. Including them in the video would demonetize this video in the future, and we are so close to being monetized on YouTube, people. So excited. So
Go subscribe.
yeah. So we're gonna take what we were working on the last time I was able to work with you in person, like to the next level. And it'll be really cool because when we worked in person, we couldn't really frame through your videos, so you can see what we see. To the screen share. Okay, so the first thing we want to be looking at are your anchors, and I've got a few queued up. And before we start giving feedback based on the thing we were working on last time together, I'm wondering what you're seeing yourself.
Mm, I think I was overextending my left leg, so I was a little bit too far behind my center of gravity,
Hmm.
which then made me travel farther back than I needed to. So I got a little overextended in the front, and the pitch and poise got a little cattywampus.
Hmm. Great job. I am proud of you for being able to see that because that is one of the things that we're wanting to focus on with you today.
Mhm.
I want to highlight how the combination of the size of a step that you're taking here combined with how much of your weight is not getting over that foot is what's
Mm.
creating the wonkiness.
Mhm.
So I want to, so I'd say this is the point at which you have most of your weight or enough of your weight committed to that foot so that way you can lift your right foot.
Mhm.
And I'm going to draw,
It's not in.
yeah, I'm going to draw what we call the line of gravity, which is something we talked about in our last episode. And I want you to see how the majority of your body is on the right side of that line. And
Mhm.
so what that tells us is you are pitched. And when we say pitch, we mean like where our weight is over our feet, not necessarily the head to hips relationship or the hips to feet relationship, but the majority of your weight is towards your partner. And what that's going to
Mhm.
do is it's going to make it really easy for them to like pull you forward early, for example. Not that this leader is doing that. We're not paying attention to your leaders today. What we want at the end of our anchor, as we're transitioning into R1, we want the majority of our weight to be away from our partner. One of the ways to start solving this is to take a smaller step here and having it more underneath us. But the other thing is having enough room in our frame. So if we did want to take a large step, we would have that rope to be able to finish transitioning our weight over our foot. So we are pitched away from our partner. And then the other thing that's happening because you're so pitched towards your partner is when you go to straighten your left leg to push out of that leg to drive yourself forward, it ends up just pushing your hips like straight up. And that's what's creating the change in like the pitch poise relationship because like your head is moving forward, but your butt is moving up. And that's what's creating that shape.
Yeah. And a lot of times that'll also create the thing where you can kind of see the fellow's hips like moving back just kind of on its own. It's because the leg is straightening, but there's not a function. So, because what we should be doing is when we're straightening the leg, we should be pressing ourselves away from the floor. And that means upper body as well, not just the lower body. But what happens generally is when we straighten the leg and then the upper body doesn't move anywhere, that extra space has to go somewhere, like the extra, uh, how do I describe that? I don't, the
The
slack
movement
in the
needs to
leg,
go
I don't know.
somewhere. Yeah.
Has to go somewhere. So when we straighten it, what happens is the hip moves back in order to accommodate. And that is something that visually looks kind of similar to what's correct when your whole body is sitting back because it technically like it's moving backwards. That's what you're wanting, but you want the upper body, the head to go with the hips, not just the hips.
Mhm.
And that's how you're
Traveling back.
create. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're talking about that line of gravity, like when you're pushing out of the floor, we want you to push back and move the upper body away as well when that's happening. And that's going to really move most of yourself back far enough to hang back and to kind of let your partner lead you a little bit more.
Mhm. And if you notice you're already at the end of your rope with your frame, that means you need to place your left foot in a different position so that way it's more in front of you because you can't move your upper body any further. So you need to place your foot differently. So it's in front of you. So you are behind the foot in relationship to your partner.
Yep. Depending on like what kind of way you're rotated when you're taking that step. Um, Generally speaking, I like to be more rotated towards that direction already. So I'm just stepping more forward rather than side.
Could you say that again?
So like when you're taking that step to the side and it's once you're kind of transferring that weight, right? That step is too far behind you. So you're stepping to the side, and I generally like to be more angled that way already. And so I'm stepping forward instead of stepping to the side.
Oh, I see. Because the hips are angled that way.
Mhm.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just makes it a little bit easier to kind of place at a more of an angle that's in front of you instead of behind you. Because a lot of times the tendency when you're stepping to the side is to step kind of underneath yourself and almost a little bit further back, right? Um, and so because we want to be more forward, or at least have that particular foot more forward to help with the sitting back and making sure that we're hanging back, it's easier to have it a little bit more angled initially.
I want to talk about where you can keep that rope in your frame so that way you have room to actually take a step if you want to at the end of your anchor. So if we back up for this first one. So we're coming in with an underarm turn. So notice how as you finished rotating to face your leader, how your arm is still already fairly extended.
Hmm.
So it's like low and relaxed, but like your elbow is still technically kind of more like in front of you than the side of you.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's almost being a little bit more like rotated into your arm initially. That way you can
Hmm.
unravel. And that's kind of what I was talking about with that, like uh, shifting the angle of it. That's a really easy way to get into that is by initially being more into your arm.
Mhm.
How can I stay more into the arm with a shorter rope without clenching up? So I think that that's like an issue that I had a few years back, and I got the recommendation to, sort of relax the arm a little bit. But like, how do I find that happy balance between the relaxed arm, but still the tone in it to keep it from overextending?
Yeah, good question. So, what happens a lot when like follows are told to shorten the rope is that they start pulling with the elbow, right?
Mm.
And that's what they're doing to create that like shortening of the rope. But instead of that, you want to think of initially rotating into the arm more. And that's going to make the rope shorter instead of pulling. So we want to
Gotcha.
be more rotated, and that way you can open.
Oh, okay. So the opening creates more space rather than actually releasing the arm out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you, at that point, will still have more room if you need to release the arm farther. Like you will have the ability to do that because you're already in a spot where you're pretty close to your body with the arm, but it's relaxed just because of the way that you're rotating.
Also, you're not as tall as me, but you're still tall as a follow. And learning how to vertically associate your foot strike with where your hand is, as opposed to
Mm.
fighting for a 3 and 4 that travels, will be really helpful for you. So if we're looking at this 3 and 4, so your 3 strike is fine, but notice how your 4 is fighting to go down line, whereas your hand has actually kind of either stayed in place or is going in the opposite direction in
Mm.
this moment. It would have probably been better if your and strike had been further back as opposed to trying to progress down the slot.
Okay, so it's more in place then, or just less traveling?
Yeah, less traveling.
Gotcha.
Are you typically trying to always be moving down the slot?
Mm, that's a great question. I don't know if I've consciously thought that much about it. Generally, I think
Okay.
probably by default, but I don't know if it's a conscious decision to be moving down the slot.
It's something that's taught pretty commonly
Yeah.
for follows.
Right. Yeah. Follow gets to the end of their slot.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the thing about that is we don't want to fight our body mechanics in order to make that happen.
Mm,
So if something's like feeling really uncomfortable, uh, probably can tweak it.
Yeah.
Because
gotcha.
this looks uncomfortable. It looks like you're really rotating uh, and
Hmm.
kind of twisting yourself. Is that how it
Hmm.
feels?
It is, yeah. And I
Okay.
actually oftentimes, especially after lots of social dancing, will get some pain in the kind of right side,
Mm.
that like mid right side of the back, right under the ribs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, like we were saying, instead of fighting to go down line, like if you're getting to a point where you have to release your frame, because to me that's releasing your frame. When you're kind of letting it go way back here and it's no longer usable, basically.
Like if we think about frame on a sugar push, we have an end range of motion. And we're not going to let our elbows like go like way past our center, right? Regardless of which role we're in, we're going to keep them around our center, be the endpoint. We want to choose where our endpoint is with our contra body as well. So how far our shoulders will like turn before our hips start following. And this is particularly important as a hypermobile dancer because we can like completely corkscrew ourselves before our hips will catch up. So on an underarm turn, having maybe like this much rotation before the hips start following will make a huge
Mhm.
difference as opposed to having this much rotation before the hips start following.
Right.
And then another thing in particular that will help on an underarm turn. So if we back up. So you're doing a really great job of staying weighted behind your one. Even though like you're a little bit forward on your anchor, you're like transitioning to be behind the one, which is awesome.
I've
If
been
you,
practicing.
yeah. I want you to practice that same thing with your two.
Got it.
And
Okay.
this is particularly important as a tall follow. Because like the sooner our center gets over that two, the more obvious it'll be that like we have longer strides than most follows relative to
Mm.
our leaders. And the more skilled leaders will be like, oh, my follow has a longer stride. I will compensate by having a larger count too. But most don't do that, especially at the intermediate level. You're not going to encounter that very often. So I don't really drive forward unless I have a leader that's leading me to drive forward because I will outstep almost every leader. The only side note story following country two step with Chris Jones, that was the only time in my life where I'm like, my legs aren't long enough. Oh no. Um,
Christian's tall. That makes sense.
yeah. He's my height, but he's like, wow, legs, I'm gonna use them. I was dying, but but yeah, staying behind the two like you are behind the one will make a big difference
Mhm.
because then that way you'll have some space in front of you to travel on the two and it'll make more sense to place your right foot underneath you for that three as opposed to already being like up over your two and then you're going past it and your three will strike further down the line. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So staying behind the two and having less contra before the hips start to follow through. And what you might start experiencing instead of crossing in front on the three and, you might find yourself placing your three and just directly underneath you to the left of your right foot instead of
Mhm.
crossing your ankles at all. Because you also teach, so it might be helpful uh, to think about because we tend to teach follows to progress with their three and four.
Yeah.
Almost like
Mhm.
there's somebody holding on to their right side at the end of the slot, like pulling it down, right? But that requires a particular lead to lead the follow to travel through the three and four. But that's not how we teach beginner leads to do their three and four. So at like the basic fundamental level, we're actually teaching a mismatch
Yeah.
at the
Mhm.
basic level. One of the things you can do as a teacher is be more conscious of like, okay, I want to teach a match. What is more appropriate for the level that I'm working with? And it's probably going to be harder to teach a leader to travel because they're struggling to lead a one and then to get a follow to like progress down line through the three and four with a body lead that's going to be even more complicated. So it makes sense that we stick with that basic that we normally teach. But then we want to adjust the follows basic so that way they're not progressing down line through their three and four. They're more underneath
Mhm.
themselves doing a turn. And then they can scroll away if they need to on the five and six.
Yeah, I know that like for me, those tend to feel more like 180, like rotation,
Mhm,
Mm.
instead of like continuing down and like slowly rotating.
mhm.
It tends to be more of a like all at once type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little sharper.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, that's, similar to how Jordan and Tot teach their basic underarm turn. Alicia, do you want to talk about the weight transfer part of the anchor step? So we're going back to the anchor.
Especially looking at this song, which was like more of a swung song, it looks like you're really trying to do a weight transfer every step that you're taking. Do you feel
Mm,
like you're doing that?
Full weight
yes.
transfer.
Yeah, full weight transfer.
Oh, not. I think I've gotten some mixed messages on the triple steps and how full of a weight transfer they should be.
Mhm.
I've heard people say that they should be, the ands should be a full, not a fully committed one, but like full enough that you are able to take your foot off the ground. And then I've heard people say that you barely need to get onto it at all for the and. So I think I'm kind of trying to figure out where makes the most sense in my body and dance.
Gotcha.
But
So
I don't know what it is.
generally, weight transfers, it has a lot to do with the upper body. And
Mm,
so when people are saying like you don't weight transfer, you're staying over to this side, even though you're putting some weight on the opposite foot. And then as you're stepping and transferring, that's the actual full weight transfer. So the partial is when we're staying over here and placing the other foot down and putting some weight on it, but we're not actually like switching it to this side. We're not balanced over that foot.
hmm
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So right now,
And it should be a partial or a full? In
Should be partial.
it should be
Um,
partial.
mhm. Just in general, are you thinking of like feet together at any point?
No, not consciously.
Okay.
because right now you're doing basically a travel and then a
Okay.
together and then a travel for a lot of your anchors. And it should be together,
Okay.
together, travel.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And those together, togethers are the partials. So partial,
The
partial,
three
full.
and.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's the and that I'm stepping away from versus like the four or the six. Like I'm traveling on the and versus
You're traveling on the up.
traveling. Okay.
You're traveling on the 4 and the 6.
Gotcha.
And that's where the swing happens. So without having like a together together for like the 1 and or the 3 and or the 5
Mm-hmm.
and, um, there won't be an aesthetic like difference between not moving and then moving.
Okay.
And then how you do that sidestep is where we get like the swing aesthetic. But at first we need to like break it down to like I'm not moving and then I'm moving. So we're really
Mm-hmm.
clear about like which side of our body we're on.
Yeah.
So for
Mm-hmm.
that, if we're doing an anchor on a 5 and 6, that 5 and we want to have our feet more underneath the right side of our body. And then
Mm-hmm.
we transition and we can travel and take a big step. But you don't actually have to take a big step, but it's easier to learn to take a
Sure.
big step. And then we're committing to having our foot more underneath the left side of our body and then being away from our
Okay.
partner. So I would say that the first thing is to notice yourself doing the travel together travel on your anchors because you're doing that pretty consistently
Mhm.
Yeah.
across all of these videos. Um, and then the next thing, once you notice it happening, is to place your 5, so the first step of your anchor, more underneath yourself as opposed to away from yourself and progressing further.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of here, it would be you would like let it fall kind of right there is where you would strike it
Yeah.
down.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then that also makes it easier to then, if you want to do a cross in front for the and, a lot easier
Mhm.
because you're not having to go very far to create that. You're just like crossing your ankles essentially.
Gotcha.
This also looks like a really uncomfortable position that you're getting into.
Yep, it's the
Yeah.
little like crick in the right side of the body
Yeah,
again.
so I think because you're trying to like keep stepping down line, that's
Hmm.
also getting you into that weird position. And if you step more underneath yourself, you're able to uh continue the momentum by rotating back towards your partner instead of
Hmm.
continuing the momentum by going away from them.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Ooh. Um, I'm not a lawyer, so I can ask a leading question. How do you understand body flight?
Objection, Your Honor. Uh, I think about body flight as the energy with which I move my own like body across the floor, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't need external input to have body flight. It all kind of is generated from within you. You're
Mhm.
just responding to the external ask from a leader because you're in
Mhm.
a partner dance.
Which the reasoning correct. Application too much work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop the screen share for this so I can like we'll see how good my hand motions are. So I like thinking about body flight in relationship to actually like principles of animation. Um
Okay.
and because like if you think about my fist just moving equidistant, like it's moving, but there's no like body flight to it, right? What you're
Hmm.
doing right now is you're trying to go farther, which means you have to go faster to create body flight. What body
Okay.
flight is changing um, the timing of where we are when. So
Okay.
instead of even, it slows in, it speeds up, it slows out. It slows in, it speeds up, it slows out. And
Hmm.
I'm not changing the distance. I'm
Hmm.
changing the timing and the speed at different parts of the slot.
Yeah.
So I've also heard West Coast swing for a follow related to like a half pipe for snowboarding.
Hmm.
Because this is a little bit easier to think about when the gravity is also involved up and down. So like you're slowing down at the top, you're slowing, but then gravity takes over and you're getting this kind
Hmm.
of a situation. That's what we're
Hmm.
doing. It's just parallel to the ground. So we're slowing, 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 releasing, slowing, 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 releasing, slowing, 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 releasing. And we can do that while not traveling very far.
Hmm. Okay.
It's not dependent on distance.
Hmm.
And what's really funny is like it took me forever to learn that because distance was how I was able to get body flight to get out of novice personally. I
Hmm.
bulldozed my partners and I bruised nearby follows. Not, this is true.
Sounds like not a fun time.
It was learning instead to have that control and where our weight is, and then accelerating and then cushioning at the right time. Accelerating and cushioning at the right time. That's what body flight is. And then once you understand that at the fundamental level, and your partner does too, then you can add momentum to it and distance to basically just
Hmm.
exaggerate those same principles. But you don't need the distance or a lot of momentum in order to create body flight.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times when when follows aren't connected well enough to experience the stretch and then the release in the anchor, a lot of times that's when they get the suggestion to like take bigger steps because they're not able to get any kind of energy from their partner whatsoever, so they're having to generate it on their own.
Mm.
So typically like they're like, "Oh, we want to see you moving." And it's like, "Well, yes, but like typically that's what the lead is choosing that if you're connected well enough, they're kind of choosing how far that's going, or the shaping where it's going. But like, if you're not connecting well enough, if you aren't getting anything from your partner, like, you have to create it yourself, and that means taking large steps.
Mhm.
Um, and then you get into these twisty positions that are really uncomfortable,
Mhm.
and it doesn't actually help. Apart from, it looks like you're moving faster, when you should be moving faster.
Yeah.
So the illusion is correct.
Yeah. And then you go through all that. You get to the place where you are, but then you might get the feedback, take smaller steps. But that's not helpful. Because if your relationship to where your weight is on your foot isn't changing, you're just going to have the same problem with smaller steps.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because when for example, if you're very forward pitched as a follow, coming out of your anchor and then into your one and into your two, you're basically falling forward down the slot.
That's exactly.
And if you then try to make that smaller steps, you're still going to be falling forward. And that point, it's going to feel like you're tripping over your own toes, because your footfall isn't far enough in front of you, and you're just like trying to catch yourself, but you can't catch up at that point. It's changing where your weight is over your foot. And then you have kind of infinite control over how big or small your steps are.
Mhm.
So, recap uh, for your anchors, we talked about we want to be like more together travel, and in conjunction with that, partial travel. And as a follow, you're going from being more over the right side of your body to then the left side of your body, in conjunction with pitching away and making sure your upper body is also getting away, not just your lower body. And then that way, when you straighten your left leg, you'll be moving as one piece, as opposed to your leader bringing your upper body forward and your legs straightening and your butt going straight up. Um, and then you've already been working hard to make sure you're behind your one, which is awesome. I want you also to be behind your two, which is very relevant for any tall follow out there. If there is one thing I could take back in time, that's probably it. The one thing. Because I can't tell you how many people I was like, I'm just getting decapitated on underarm turns. Um, And because I knew how to lead it correctly, I would just be frustrated with my leaders. But like, I was not getting help to figure out how to solve it from my end when my leader wasn't leading well. And this was the thing, staying behind my two. And then we talked about your frame also. So
Mhm.
making sure you have rope to reel into to be able to do that together, travel, partial, full.
Mhm.
And you can do that through shaping. Um, and if you are like square your partner, like in a sugar push, for example, um, like if they're like locking you into being facing them, then you can let it be your elbows more behind your center, in order to create that rope, if you choose to. But if you have the room to shape into it, that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was everything. And then we went on a tangent about body flight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
How did you describe it again?
so
Like
we'll start with
where you
the
are when?
yeah.
Okay.
In animation, it's timing and spacing.
Mhm.
So, actually, I can maybe draw something.
Good luck.
Thank you. I'll need it. So, do so let's say this is the begin and end of the circle. Pretend the circles are the exact same size. What my fist just moving at a smooth rate looks like is basically even spacing for those circles. So for each frame, we have one picture and it's moving like the same amount per frame change. What body flight, how it tends to be understood is something to do with like momentum, because they're like, I'm seeing momentum. So I need momentum. But that tends to end with them just changing the distance that they're traveling. So it's traveling further, but still the circles are spaced evenly. They're just moving through space in the same amount of time, but they're moving further. So therefore they're moving faster. Yeah. What we want is to manipulate the spacing. So we still have the beginning and ending poses. And we'll still have like one dead in the center. But these two pictures will be closer to the beginning and to the end. So it's still one picture per frame, but the transition from that frame to that frame, the circle isn't moving very far. Same here. But the change from that frame to that frame and this one is bigger because it's more distance in less time. And so this is the one that we're aiming for. We're not trying to increase the distance or the momentum. We're trying to change when we're using momentum at all.
Okay.
Um,
That was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And the description of like a half pipe for snowboarding is really easy, or just like tossing a ball. Like there's a moment where there's hang time because gravity is like, this is however long I can hold you in the air, but it's going to start falling again. So that's where tossing a ball is. But with a half pipe, you get to the edge of the pipe, you literally can't go anymore. You need to like slow down. And then gravity is not suddenly increasing on you. Thank you, Lulu and Stitch. So it's going to take time for gravity to start pulling you down again. So you're like having this hover moment at the edge, and then it comes through. Hover moment at the edge, and then it comes through. And that's what we're doing in West Coast Swing with the follow in particular, except it's parallel to the ground. So it's slowing down at the end, accelerating, slowing down at the end, accelerating, slowing down at the end, accelerating. The way you accomplish that is more about control and timing and spacing than it is about momentum. Momentum is an element, but if we're depending on it, we're going to struggle as we're basically going to have to like break down our technique and start over from scratch in order to create the body flight for the next level of competition.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
I went ahead and animated the 3 spheres that I drew. So if you look here, the same top and middle bottom as I was drawing out before, but this time it's in motion. So you can see how the bottom one is actually getting to the end of the slot sooner than the top one, and then just spending more time there before it starts going back to the left. I'm going to let this loop a few times so you can watch it, and then we'll get back to the normal episode. Yeah, if you think about those 3 different versions, it might be a fun exercise for you to, on purpose, like take your left side pass footwork and try to do each one. Try to make it like stupid even, like and 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. That's gonna be exhausting. And then the next one is like just do the exact same thing, but more distance. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. It has
Run down flight.
but it's just because you're working harder.
Yeah.
Versus so 5 and 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 1, 2.
Cool.
Very hard to do the correct one with just your hand.
That makes sense.
I think it would make more sense if I were like countering myself and then coming past myself. Countering myself. And coming past myself. Yeah, that thing looks better.
Like with the gravity thing, like where you're slowing and redirecting. That's when follows are slowing and redirecting at the end of the slot. So we're still having that movement happening. It's just not happening in the same direction. It's just changing directions. And so that's why visually it's not moving as fast at the ends, because we're moving more side to side instead of, across the slot.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah. So that like spacing in the picture I did, the bottom one, those first two circles would be even closer together in reality.
Gotcha.
One of the things I want to do someday on a nerdy episode, but it would require so much drawing and patience that I would struggle with, is to actually like animate frame by frame the circles of the hips of a follow, doing it
Mm.
basics back and forth. And you would be able to see how the circles are very like clustered together on the anchor, and are still clustered, more clustered on like count one. And then they start getting further apart and then they get closer together again.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any like questions, anything you want us to go back over, anything like that?
No, I think that was all good stuff to chew on. I think I noticed a little bit as well as a tendency to pitch forward, just some forward head posture. Will that sort of be fixed? Maybe not, but like helped by taking those smaller steps and hanging back farther on the two and then not overextending behind myself on the anchors. So I think I noticed that I end up sort of like,
And I think it's also in conjunction with your frame. So if your frame is
oh,
overextended,
okay.
your
Yeah.
head weight, it's actually like mechanically one of the things your body does to not strain the shoulder. Shifting your head weight forward will bring your weight closer to your shoulder, so there will be less tension
So
on
when
the
you're
arm.
here, right? You're trying to stay with your arm that's getting moved instead of, trying to fight that. Your shoulder doesn't want that. So obviously you're just going to be pulled forward, and then because you're already too far in front of the back foot, then you're just getting tipped forward really easily. But
Okay.
if you're more back and this is getting pulled, you can see my head's already here. All of my weight is like back here. So then I'm slowly being moved and I can control that more, as opposed to already being here and everything just tipping forward.
Yeah. And then you're
Gotcha.
also like in the position where you can say no to the leader bringing you forward for any reason, because you'll be in a relationship with that shoulder where it can take more weight safely. And basically you just don't move. And then the leader sometimes ricochets back at you, which is fun.
That happens with that.
Yeah. But yeah, because when you're like Alicia was showing, if you're overextended and you're forward pitched, if your hand moves away from you, you go with it.
Mhm.
Can only
Uh,
go so far.
yeah. But if
Right.
you're pitched away, it's kind of like in tug of war. The more pitched you are back, the more weight you can take safely without like
Mhm.
compromising your joints. And then it's not about like tensing your muscles to say no to the lead. You just don't move your foot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's darn near anticlimactic at that point. You don't have to like over engage your muscles in your arms or your back or
Yeah.
into the floor.
Wild.
You just don't move.
Yeah. Honestly, at that point, that's where you're like, oh, I guess I'll move if you want me to move.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when you make that decision what you want to do.
Yeah. And it's really helpful if you have a leader that's leading you early. Because then
Mhm.
you just you go forward when you want to, as opposed to when they were trying to move you. Thank you for sticking with us on our first like YouTube.
Yeah, I didn't
Like
realize I was a guinea pig.
we've done this in private before, and the recording is
Yeah.
just for the student to use.
Yeah, totally.
But this time it was all like, oh no, this also has to make sense on a YouTube video.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. That was really informative. Cassie, what is the app that you use to slow down the
Oh,
videos?
yeah. So this actually comes from my 3D character animation background.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's called Keyframe Pro, and it's designed for animators. So I could even have like ghosted frames. It's very fancy. But I think a lot of sports, like golfers, use like coaching apps that can let you frame through things. I would just be wary of anything that automatically puts an armature on the body, like a
Oh, what?
wireframe armature,
Okay.
because those tend to be like accurate enough, but there can be some slight differences where if you're just looking at the AI generated frame on the body, you might think you're pitched one way, but if you actually look at the body, you're actually pitched a different way, and that's where it gets rough.
Yeah.
So anything where you can just use the arrow keys to frame through is usually enough for
Mhm.
anyone other than nerdy old me where I want to draw things.
Yeah, that was really informative just to watch it happening slowly, frame by frame. Because I've done slow-mo like watches of my own videos, and it doesn't quite
Quite the same.
have the same effect. Yeah.
Yeah, being able
But
to
in the frame by frame, I was really easily able to sort of see exactly where my weight and pitch was at, and that was cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
Another program, the one that I use, I think, is DaVinci Resolve.
Mhm.
That is another one that you can use to frame through.
Yeah, just a video editing software.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, thank you so much. I don't remember how to wrap up a video. How does one be human?
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us. All right, I have to talk to the audience now. I always feel so like disingenuous to shift to that after
Yeah,
talking.
right.
To
Just break the fourth wall. You
break
can.
the fourth wall. Hello.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you all for joining us. And again, thanks, Anne, for being the first student to let us do constructive feedback. Because, like Alicia was talking at the beginning on this show, we've been showing you what the pros do and what we're aspiring to as individuals. But that doesn't mean we're also training your eye to be able to diagnose when things are off. So thank you, Anne, for allowing us to help or to start being able to do that for our audience. And if you are at home and you're interested in this kind of feedback for yourself, Alicia and I offer coaching over Zoom. And if you want to be another guinea pig for a YouTube episode, just reach out to us. Yeah, I'll be back.
See you next time.